The city was always awake. Neon signs flickered through cracked windows, buses hummed down tired streets, and shopkeepers rolled up their shutters before the sun even rose. For most people, this was just another morning. For Tarek, it was another day trying to prove that he was more than the label the world had already given him. At 17, Tarek had learned more about survival than most adults did in a lifetime. He lived with his mother in a one-bedroom apartment above a grocery store, the kind that smelled like spices and diesel fumes. His mother, Fatima, worked nights cleaning offices downtown. She left before Tarek woke up and came back long after he fell asleep. Tarek's dream was simple. He wanted to be a journalist. Not a famous one, just someone who could tell the truth for people who didn't have the power to speak. He believed words could change things. He believed stories mattered. But that morning, as he put on his faded uniform and walked into the glass-fronted retail store where he worked part-time, he didn't know that his own story was about to be twisted into a lie. The store was called Harper & Company, a high-end clothing shop in the city center. The kind of place where people spent more on a single jacket than his mother earned in a week. He wasn't supposed to be there, at least not in their eyes. He was just the boy who folded shirts, the kid from the wrong side of town. Tarek clocked in, nodded politely at his manager, and began arranging new arrivals on the shelf. He liked the quiet moments before customers came in, the hum of the air conditioner, the sound of distant traffic, the smell of new fabric. It gave him peace, a small escape from the noise of his life. Around noon, the first wave of customers arrived. Office workers on lunch break, a few teenagers trying on sneakers, and one man who stood out. He was in his 40s, expensive suit, sharp eyes. The kind of man who made people nervous just by existing. The staff called him Mr. Vance, the regional manager. He didn't visit often, but when he did, the tension in the air thickened. Tarek greeted him politely, and Vance nodded with a tight smile. "You're the part-timer, right?" "Tarek." "Yes, sir." "Good. Keep the back room tidy today. We have new stock coming in." That was it. No warmth, no acknowledgement, just a command. Tarek was used to it. He'd learned long ago that respect wasn't something people gave freely, especially to someone like him. Hours passed. Customers came and went. Everything felt normal. Until the shift ended. The assistant manager, a nervous woman named Clara, called out from the back office. "Everyone, please stay for a moment. We're missing something important." The staff gathered near the counter. The mood shifted instantly. Clara's voice trembled as she spoke. "Mr. Vance's wallet is missing. He said he placed it on the desk in the office this afternoon. It had company cards, cash, and IDs. Tarek froze. He remembered seeing Vance in that office earlier, the door half open, papers scattered on the desk. But he hadn't gone inside. He never did. Still, when eyes began to turn toward him, he felt his stomach drop. Vance's voice cut through the silence. "I want everyone's bags checked." Clara hesitated. "Sir, I don't think. Do it?" The air thickened. One by one, employees opened their bags. Keys, wallets, phones, receipts. When it was Tarek's turn, he opened his small backpack. Inside were a notebook, a half-eaten sandwich, a pen, and an old phone with a cracked screen. Vance stared for a moment, then gave a thin smile. "Nothing here. But sometimes people hide things well." He gestured to the security guard near the entrance. "Check the back room." He was assigned there all day. The guard disappeared behind the door. Moments later, he returned, holding a leather wallet. "This it, sir?" Tarek's heart stopped. Vance snatched it from the guard's hand, flipping it open. "Yes, this is mine." The room went silent. Every pair of eyes fell on Tarek. He couldn't breathe. "That's not possible." "I didn't," but before he could finish, Vance raised a hand. "Save it. I gave you a chance to be honest." The guard stepped forward, placing a hand on Tarek's shoulder. "Sir, I didn't. Just cooperate," the guard said. His voice was soft, but his grip was firm. Tarek looked around the room, searching for someone, anyone, who believed him. But all he saw were lowered eyes and whispered judgments. The words floated through the air like poison. "I always knew he was trouble. They shouldn't hire kids from that area." He looked guilty the moment I saw him. The police arrived 15 minutes later. By then, the story had already written itself. A young man from the wrong neighborhood, caught stealing from his boss. Case closed. They handcuffed him in front of everyone. Someone recorded it on their phone. Tarek's face pale, his lips trembling, his eyes full of disbelief. No one asked for his side. No one waited for evidence. When they led him out of the store, the crowd outside had already gathered. Phones rose like weapons. People whispered, sneered, pointed. He heard snippets of their words as he passed. Look at him. Another thief. Serves him right. Each word stung deeper than the last. Inside the patrol car, Tarek pressed his forehead against the cold glass, watching the streets blur by. He thought about his mother. What would she think when she found out? He thought about school, his friends, his dreams. Everything he'd worked for, gone in an instant. At the station they took his fingerprints, his photo, and his dignity. He sat in a holding cell that smelled of sweat and bleach, staring at the concrete wall. He tried to tell his story, but the officers barely looked at him. Save it for the judge, one said. That night, Tarek didn't sleep. Every sound, footsteps, keys, murmurs, felt like another nail sealing his fate. He wasn't just a suspect now. He was the thief. And somewhere in that same city, the video of his arrest had already been uploaded. The caption read, "Teen caught stealing from his boss. Justice served." By morning it had over 1 million views. Morning sunlight filtered through iron bars, thin and gray. Tarek's eyes stung from a sleepless night. The noise of the police station echoed around him. Phones ringing, officers laughing somewhere down the hall, the faint buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. He tried not to think about the video, but the images replayed behind his eyelids anyway. The faces, the phones, the whisper that turned into a crowd. He was released on bail the next afternoon. A small mercy his mother could barely afford. She didn't speak on the way home. Her hands trembled on the steering wheel, her knuckles pale. When she finally looked at him, her eyes carried something heavier than anger, fear. "What did you do, Tarek?" she whispered. "I didn't do anything." But she didn't answer. The silence said she wanted to believe him, but the world already didn't. When they reached home, the building felt different. Neighbors who once smiled now turned away. Someone had written thief in chalk on the stairwell wall. The word glared at them as they passed. Inside their apartment, the TV was already playing the clip. A news anchor spoke with the tone of casual certainty. A 17-year-old employee was caught stealing from his workplace. The incident was captured on camera by bystanders. Police are investigating. They didn't say his name, but the image was clear enough. His uniform, his face, his life. Fatima turned the TV off. The silence afterward was deafening. 2 days later, Tarek returned to school. The principal met him at the gate, avoiding eye contact. "We think it's best if you take some time off," he said. "What?" "Nothing's proven. It's about maintaining the school's reputation." Reputation. A word that had more weight than truth. His friends avoided him. Messages stopped. His phone buzzed only for notifications. Memes, comments, and strangers calling him names he had never heard before. Some said he deserved prison. Others said he looked the part. No one asked what really happened. Online the story grew legs. People shared screenshots, added captions, invented details. They called him the street thief, the example, proof of why you can't trust them. Hashtags appeared. Debates followed. He was trending for all the wrong reasons. For 3 days Tarek stayed inside. He watched the world decide his guilt from the glow of a phone screen. Every comment felt like a stone thrown at a window he couldn't close. His mother pleaded with him to eat. He couldn't. At night he stared at the ceiling, thinking of the store, the wallet, the look in Vance's eyes when the guard found it. Something about it still didn't make sense. Why had the wallet been behind the storage boxes? Why was the guard so quick to find it there, as if he already knew? On the 4th day, a journalist knocked on their door. A young woman with tired eyes and a microphone. "I'm not here to attack you," she said softly. "I just want your side." Tarek hesitated. But then he remembered what he'd always believed in, stories. He told her everything. The shift, the search, the arrest. She listened without interrupting, scribbling notes. When he finished, she said, "They didn't check the CCTV footage?" He shook his head. "They said the cameras weren't working that day." She frowned. Convenient. That night, the journalist's report aired on a small local channel. It was the first time anyone had questioned the official story. Most people ignored it, but a few didn't. A security guard from a nearby store sent an anonymous message to the newsroom. "The cameras at Harper & Company are always on. They're linked to the mall system. Someone's lying." Meanwhile, Vance gave his own interview. He called Tarek a disappointment, spoke about youth morals, and praised the police for their swift response. His calm confidence made viewers believe every word. Tarek watched it unfold from the sofa, his hands clenched. He could feel the walls closing in. Every news clip was another verdict. Every silence from his friends was another sentence. On social media, the anger grew crueler. People found his old photos, mocked his neighborhood, his accent, his clothes. They called his mother irresponsible. A stranger even sent a message that read, "Stay away from decent people." He thought about deleting everything, disappearing, starting over somewhere else. But how could he, when the internet never forgets? Then, one evening, as he stood by the window watching rain smear the city lights, he noticed a figure downstairs. A man in a janitor's uniform, standing near the street light, looking up at their window before turning away. Tarek didn't recognize him, but something about the posture felt familiar. The same man who used to clean the store floors quietly every morning. The one everyone ignored. A spark of hope flickered in his chest. Maybe not everyone had turned away. Maybe someone still knew the truth. But for now, the world believed he was a thief. And in the court of public opinion, that was the only truth that mattered. Rain fell in steady threads, coating the city in glass. Tarek sat by the window again, watching drops crawl down the glass like minutes he couldn't stop. The world outside kept moving, buses, umbrellas, lives that weren't his. Inside, everything was still. He hadn't been back to work, school, or anywhere beyond the building's front steps. His mother went to work quietly and returned quieter. The smell of old coffee and damp clothes filled the apartment. Their laughter, something that used to bounce off the walls, was gone. Then one night there was a soft knock on the door. When he opened it, a man stood there, hood up, eyes shifting down the hall. The janitor. His name tag read Eli. "I shouldn't be here," Eli whispered. "But you didn't do it." Tarek froze. "What?" "I know who did. I saw it." He stepped inside, dripping water onto the floor. His voice trembled, half fear, half relief. "That day before the guard came in, I was cleaning near the break room. Vance dropped something, a wallet." He looked panicked. Then he shoved it behind the boxes. Tarek's breath caught. "You saw him?" Eli nodded. "I didn't say anything. I need that job. I got 2 kids. But then I saw what they did to you. I can't." He reached into his coat and pulled out a USB drive. "The cameras worked that day. I made a backup. I always do." Tarek stared at the small piece of plastic like it was salvation in his hand. "Why are you helping me now?" he asked quietly. Eli looked away. "Because silence helps the guilty." The next morning, Tarek and his mother went to the small newsroom that had first believed them. The same journalist, Maya, met them at the entrance, surprised but calm. "You brought something?" she asked. Tarek nodded. "Proof." They plugged the drive in. The footage was grainy, flickering slightly. But it told the truth in slow motion. Vance near the counter, looking around, slipping the wallet behind the boxes, and walking away just moments before calling for security. No narration, no edits, no doubts. Just truth. Maya leaned back, exhaling. This changes everything." But the excitement in her voice was brief. "They'll try to bury this," she said. "You understand that?" "I just want my name back," Tarek replied. By afternoon, Maya had uploaded the clip to the newsroom's secure servers and prepared a new story. This time the headline read, "New evidence contradicts theft accusations against teen worker." The video went live that evening. For the first hour it was quiet. Then a ripple began online. Comments, retweets, disbelief. People who had once insulted Tarek now asked for forgiveness in the same breath. Others refused to believe it, calling it fake or edited. But more than enough people saw the truth to make it impossible to ignore. By midnight, it hit 1 million views. The same accounts that once mocked him now said, "We knew something was off." A famous influencer shared it with the caption, "Injustice caught on tape. #FreeTarek." The police reopened the case within 24 hours. The next morning, they visited Harper and Company. Vance was questioned. His charm, the easy smile that had fooled everyone, cracked under pressure. There were other complaints too. Missing items, unpaid wages, whispers from employees too afraid to speak before. The story unraveled fast. That night, for the first time in weeks, Tarek slept without the weight pressing on his chest. But relief was strange. It didn't bring joy, only exhaustion. Because even as truth surfaced, the damage remained. His reputation was still out there, recorded forever in millions of comments and reposts. Maya called the next day. "They're going to make a statement," she said. "The police, the company, everyone." He hesitated. "Will they say they were wrong?" She was quiet for a moment. "They'll say they're reviewing procedures. It's the closest thing to an apology you'll get." When the official press conference aired, Vance wasn't there. The company representative spoke carefully, every word wrapped in legal caution. We regret the misunderstanding. The employee in question has been cleared. We appreciate the swift work of our staff and law enforcement. No names, no guilt, no apology. Just closure without justice. Still, the footage continued spreading. People shared clips of Tariq smiling for the first time, shaking Maya's hand, walking down the street again. For a moment, the internet remembered what it had done and turned its outrage toward someone else. But the boy at the center of it all didn't celebrate. He just stared at his reflection in a bus window as the city passed by, his face half in shadow. He had his freedom back, but something in him stayed behind. Trust maybe. Belief. The idea that truth was enough. That night he walked past the old store. The windows were dark. A for-lease sign hung crooked on the glass. He paused, then whispered to the empty street, "You almost took my life for a lie." And for the first time, the silence didn't answer back. The sun rose over a quieter city. The storm had passed, but puddles still held the reflection of what it left behind. Tariq sat on the rooftop of his apartment, a cup of tea in his hand, his phone beside him, silent for the first time in weeks. He scrolled slowly through the flood of messages. Some apologized. Some offered help. Some said nothing but a single word, respect. And yet none of it felt real. Because the internet never truly said sorry. It just moved on, to another outrage, another name, another face. Down below, children ran to school. A woman sold bread by the corner. Life continued, indifferent to what he had lost. His mother joined him on the rooftop, wrapping her shawl tighter around her shoulders. She didn't say anything at first. She just stood beside him, looking out at the city. Finally, she whispered, "It's over." He shook his head. "No, Mama. It's just quiet." She turned to him, eyes soft with pride and sorrow. "You're stronger now." "Stronger doesn't mean healed," he said quietly. She reached over and placed her hand over his. "Then heal slowly. The truth waited for you, it will wait for your peace too." They stayed like that for a while, just a mother and son watching the world rebuild around them. Later that week, Maya's follow-up documentary aired. The title was simple, When the Cameras Spoke. It wasn't just about Tariq anymore. It was about the system, how a single accusation backed by power and bias could destroy a life. The footage cut between interviews, the janitor Eli who said he couldn't live with silence anymore, a legal expert speaking about how often false accusations went unchecked, a psychologist explaining the trauma of public shaming. Then it returned to Tariq. His voice was calm, steady, older somehow. "They said I stole something," he began, "but what they really took was time. Time I'll never get back." He looked into the camera, the same calmness now mixed with defiance. "The internet gave me a name, thief. Then it took it back. But I learned something. Truth doesn't scream. It waits. It doesn't fight for likes. It fights to exist." The screen faded to black and the words appeared. Inspired by true events. Dedicated to the falsely accused. A month later, the case against Vance went public. He was arrested for embezzlement, not for the wallet but for years of manipulating accounts and staff. Eli testified and his evidence helped close the case. Harper and Company quietly dissolved. The world moved on. But in small corners of the internet, the story of the boy they called a thief became something else. A symbol. College students referenced it in ethics essays. Activists used clips in campaigns against profiling. And once in a while, someone would message Tariq just to say, "You made me believe again." He didn't always reply. Sometimes he just read them and smiled. Because healing isn't loud either. It happens quietly, in small moments, in breaths between memories. One evening, he stood by the same convenience store that had changed his life. It was still empty, dust collecting where customers once lined up. The streetlights flickered like they were remembering too. He took a slow breath and walked away, not running from the past but walking into something new. The last scene fades to him crossing a bridge at sunset, camera pulling back to show the wide city stretching out before him. His voice echoes softly. "They called me a thief, but the only thing I ever took was my truth back."